Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we find ourselves in an enchanting world of friendship and fantasy, where we'll discover the ancient art form of tea dragon caretaking. You'll be creating a bond between yourself and your tea dragon that grows as you progress through the seasons, creating memories to share forever. Autumn Harvest, a tea dragon society game, is for 2 to 4 players and is a standalone game that can be combined with the Tea Dragon Society card game, expanding gameplay to 5 players. It takes 30 to 60 minutes to play, for ages 10 and up, and published by Renegade Game Studios. Today we'll be doing a rule school where I'll teach you how to set up and play the game so that you don't have to read the rulebook yourself. Now I've placed timestamps below me in the description of this video, just in case you want to jump to a specific section of the rules. Without further ado, let's get started. Autumn Harvest, the Tea Dragon Society card game, is a family game for 2 to 4 players where you'll be choosing one of these tea dragons to create a bond with. Each tea dragon has their own starter deck, and you'll be drawing cards and sometimes gaining effects like drawing growth tokens, and these tokens, along with other cards, will allow you to purchase better cards. And you'll be spending a certain amount of growth to get new cards that will sometimes give you cool effects, but also give you points in the end. You'll be going through different seasons of the game of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And during a specific season, you'll have cards that you'll be able to purchase, and some of these are worth a lot of points. So over the course of the game, you'll be spending cards into your discard pile to use to purchase other cards, but also buying new cards that will go into your deck to give it a deck building feel. So let's see if you'll be able to play your cards right, manage your growth, and buy new cards and have the most points in the end. To set up, each player is first going to select a tea dragon and take their corresponding 12 card starter deck that comes with that tea dragon. For example, for Earl Grey, there'll be 12 other cards that say Earl Grey, and they all have an ST in the bottom right to denote that they are starter cards. There's a set of these for each of the 4 tea dragons you can use in this game, which are Earl Grey, Peppermint, Hibiscus, and Ginger. Once you've selected your tea dragon, you'll place it face up like this. Right in front of you, this is known as your hold. The rest of the 12 cards you'll shuffle up and you'll place just to the left of this as a draw deck. If you're playing with less than 4 players, any tea dragons not selected and their starter decks can go back in the box. Now there are 4 bonus tea dragons here, each with 2 cards, 1 of the actual tea dragon and 1 specific starter card. You will only use these if you want to play with 5 players and you want to use the tea dragons from the original Tea Dragon Society card game. Essentially you would replace the tea dragon themselves and the card with the same name with the starter deck from that previous game. Otherwise, if you're not doing that, you could place these back in the box. Next, you're going to build the memory decks. Now, there are 4 seasons of cards for the memory decks. There is spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And each of these decks have all the same types of cards from the same season, and you'll know this by the color of the cards at the top. Once you have them separated out, you'll then turn them over and shuffle each of these decks separately. Then, if you're playing with 2 or 3 players, from each season, you'll randomly remove 2 of the cards and place them back in the box. If you're playing with 4 or 5 players, you'll remove 1 card from each season randomly and place it back in the box. Now the summer, autumn, and winter seasons will be placed off to the side. You'll need them later in the game, but keep them in their separated decks. Then you'll take the spring deck, flip it over face up, and you'll place each of the cards so that they can be seen like this. And this should be towards the middle of the table where everyone can see it. Now at this point, we're going to build the market tableau, because all of the cards that we've either used or removed from the game or set aside were either from the starter cards or from the memory cards. All the other cards that are left over are going to be the market cards. So from those cards, you're going to go through them and find 1 card that says Time Passes. Now there's multiples of these cards in the deck, but you're just going to find 1 of them. You'll flip that card face down, and you'll place the rest of the shuffled deck on top of it so that Time Passes card is at the bottom of the market deck. Then you'll flip the top 4 cards face up to create the market tableau. This should be right in the middle of the table where all the players can see it. Then you're going to separate out, and off to the side you're going to place a pile of the point tokens and the growth tokens. Then you're going to take 1 growth token and give it to each player. And you can place this into your hold, which is to the right of your tea dragon. Now the player teaching the game of the oldest will be the first player. You're going to give this Mentors tile to the player sitting to their right, meaning this is the player that's going to be last in the clockwise turn order. The object of the game is to have the most points in the end, and you'll be doing different things to get point tokens. And over the course of the game, you'll be purchasing other cards, and these are going to be worth points in the end as well. Starting with the first player and going clockwise, players will take turns, and each of their turns, they'll choose one of two actions. On your turn, one of the two things you can do is simply draw a card. You'll take the top card off your draw deck, you'll flip it face up, and you'll place it into your hold just in front of you like this. Sometimes a card might have an effect, like this says when drawn, gain a growth token. In that case, you would gain one from the supply and put it in your hold. Keep in mind, these are sort of currency that you'll be spending to buy other cards, and when you use these tokens, they'll go back to the supply, but you can never have more than 3 of these tokens in your hold. Now since I drew a card, it'd be the next player's turn clockwise. But let's say it comes back to me, instead of drawing a card, I can buy a card. Now to buy a card, I can use growth tokens and growth from cards in my hold. This one has 1, and we have 2 single ones here. So we have up to 3 that we could spend. Now when looking at the 4 market cards, we'll see a cost in the upper right. So this one costs 4, 5, 4, and 3. We can actually afford Bell. So let's say we want to spend our 3 growth to purchase this Bell card for 3 growth. In order to do that, we would spend these 2 back into the supply, and we would spend this here by discarding this from our hold to a discard pile next to our draw deck. We would then add the card that we bought into our hold. At the end of the game, this is going to be worth a certain amount of points, whether this is in our hold, our draw deck, or our discard pile. It also has an effect, so later on, if we end up drawing a card that says Grumpy, we would discard this card. Now that you're starting to build a discard pile here, on future turns as you're drawing cards for your action, if there's no cards left in your draw deck, you'd simply shuffle your discard pile and make a new draw pile from it. Then you would replace the card that you bought from the market with the top card from the market deck. Now you'll want to pay attention to the effect on the card that you drew to refill the market, because some cards have effects that trigger when the card's revealed into the market. Now after buying the card, it'd be the next player's turn, but let's say in a future turn we want to buy a card, but instead of buying a market card, we want to buy a memory card. Here we're in the spring, we see the ones available, again with the costs in the upper right. So let's say at this point we have these cards in our hold, and we see that we have 2, 4, 6. We have up to 6 growth that we could spend. And let's say maybe we want to buy this Forest Spirit that costs 5. Now remember, you can always use the growth on the cards to purchase cards, but you can also use the growth tokens as well. I didn't have any left, but this is going to be 6, so all 3 of these cards will go into my discard pile. And when buying a memory card, we take the card, but it also goes in the discard pile. Now that's different from the market cards, which if you remember when you buy those, they go into your hold, but when you buy a season card, it goes directly into the discard pile. Now we spent 6, but it only cost 5. You never get change back in growth, and you can't keep that growth for next round. It's use it or lose it. Now after you purchase that season card, not only does it go into your discard pile, you're going to shuffle your discard pile and your draw piles together and create a new draw deck. This means the card that I just bought could be coming up on my next draw. Now, if when someone's purchasing a season card, if there's only 1 left of that season after they've purchased the card that they wanted, you would discard this single card and you would place the next season's memory cards face up for everyone to see. You also would discard all 4 cards in the market, and you'd refill the market with 4 new cards from the draw deck. And so players will continue taking turn in clockwise order. Now the player who started with the Mentors card, remember this is the last player in turn order started with it. If you buy any card, you must spend the single growth from the Mentors card, remembering you never get any change back, and then pass that Mentors card to the player to your right in a counterclockwise manner. The players will continue taking turns until there's only 1 memory card left in the winter season. Then players will take all the cards from their hold, their draw deck, and their discard pile. They would add up all the points on the bottom of any of the cards they have, plus any point tokens they might have, and whoever has the most points is the winner. If there's a tie, the one with the most memory cards would win regardless of which seasons it's from. If it's still tied, the player that has the Mentors card would win, and if none of the tied players had the Mentors card, the one that would be receiving this next would win. Well, I hope this helped you dive right into Autumn Harvest, a Tea Dragon Society card game. If you have further questions about the rules, I placed the link below me in the description of this video, and that's the best place to ask them since I'll be notified, but so will Renegade Game Studios.